Rookie minicamp is officially in the books as the Raiders offseason continues to roll on. Plus, tip of the cap to the Raiders' all-time passing leader on his retirement. That plus more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for May 12th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. The show continues to grow each and every day because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. We definitely appreciate him. We shout him out. You want to check him out on Twitter, you can. He's there at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we've got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. A lot of feedback that we received over the weekend, so we'll try to close out strong with as many calls as texts as possible. Everything from you, Raider Nation. We'll do that coming up, segment number 3. Segment number 2, Derek Carr, a couple seasons removed from being released from the Silver and Black, has now decided to hang it up, call it quits, retire after a couple short seasons with the New Orleans Saints. So we'll talk all things Derek Carr coming up in segment number 2, what he meant to the Silver and Black. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, really just a little bit of feedback following Raiders rookie minicamp, something that media was allowed to see and be a part of on Friday. So we'll go ahead and jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So on Friday, there was already 8 of the 11 draft picks signed, sealed, and delivered for the Raiders. And I figured that at some point they would get all the guys signed either by the time practice started on Friday, quickly after practice, or shortly after. Well, as of right now, there's 9 guys signed. 9 out of 11. Dante Thornton Jr., the wide receiver out of Tennessee, the 4th-round pick, he signed his deal right before rookie minicamp got started on Friday. The Raiders also signed a handful of undrafted free agents, 15 of them to be exact. They had about 70 guys in total at rookie minicamp over the course of the weekend participating, but the guys that they have signed, sealed, and delivered are the ones that are actually under contract. The other guys are camp invites, some guys working out there, like Jalen Smith. We found about the former linebacker, the guy who was a dominant linebacker at Notre Dame until he tore up his knee in the bowl game, and then the Cowboys had him for a while, and even the Raiders had him in camp and with the team for a quick minute last year, but he was there over the course of the weekend, and again, not being able to be there on Friday because I was doing my radio show, Joe and Q on ESPN Radio, so I didn't have a chance to be there and actually observe. But from everything I understand, there was so much energy, so much movement, so much real excitement from the players that were out there. And again, 70 of them participated on Friday. And even Pete Carroll's out there showing guys actually how to go through drills. Like, he's showing cornerbacks the proper way to backpedal. And, he's out there going through the drills. He's got his, he's got his gloves on. He's got his cleats on. I mean, he's out there going through the drills with the guys. And that's just who he is, right? He's that guy that is full of energy. There's been conversations that apparently the media is not allowed to use the bleachers and sit down. They actually have to stand and watch practice when they're out there instead of being able to have the option of sitting, which is never a big deal. It's what I always did anyway, was walk up and down the side of the field, and I like to observe anyway, kind of like I'm being a sideline reporter during a game or whatever, just going up and kind of following the ball. So I always used to like to do that, but just sounds like they're trying to have a real competitive atmosphere. Of course, Ashton Genty and several others were doing some really good things that multiple media members pointed out, like, yep, that guy is everything that he was meant to be. Jack Besh, 2nd-round pick out of TCU, the wide receiver. He had a couple nice catches at the end of practice that many people said would have been a touchdown if it had been a game, just the way that he was out there playing. And the anticipation levels that Jack Besh, once it's go time, he's going to get out there early and often for the Silver and Black. So if you're keeping score, Ashton Genty signed, sealed, and delivered. Caleb Rogers, 3rd-round pick, the guard. He signed, sealed, and delivered. Charles Grant, the tackle, same thing. Tonka Hemingway, defensive tackle. As I mentioned, Dante Thornton Jr., the wide receiver. He signed, sealed, and delivered. Defensive tackle, J.J. Pegues, the 6th-round pick. Tommy Mellott, 6th-round pick. And side note on Tommy Mellott, man, there's a really cool feature that NFL Network did, Kyle Brandt and company, on Tommy Mellott. and I've been saying this, I've been trying to bring any kind of positivity or any kind of notes that I hear from outside, outside different media, national media, and just whoever's talking about the Raiders. I try to bring it to the table just so for a matter of fact, that the conversation's out there. Kyle Brandt, Good Morning Football on NFL Network, did like a 5 or 6 minute feature on Touchdown Tommy. How often do you see, and being honest, and I get it because in Cleveland they have Shedeur Sanders, who's a 5th-round pick, but how often do you see a 6th-round pick getting features done on him? Right? Not very often. Obviously, Shedeur's a different animal, right? I mean, it's funny for everyone who said that they didn't want the cameras and he was a distraction. There was too much going on and he needs to just go down, humble himself, and go and go to work. Well, the NFL and the Cleveland Browns, they sure are putting them out there on social media, aren't they? I've seen more video of that 5th-round pick than I've seen of anybody, right? I've seen as much video on Shedeur Sanders as I've seen on Ashton Jeanty. Actually, I've seen more on Shedeur than I have on Ashton Jeanty, but that's not my point. My point is the fact that a 6th-round pick in wide receiver, quarterback Tommy Mellott from Montana State had a lengthy feature on NFL Network. That doesn't happen very often, right? There's not very often when you're seeing a 6th-round pick, right, that comes from FCS, right, was a quarterback, but is not going to even play quarterback in the National Football League, get some kind of full, blown-out feature, and that's what they did, and it was fantastic. Matter of fact, I'll bring it to the show tomorrow. I was actually going to bring it today, but since Derek Carr retired, I decided that I had to go ahead and at least talk about DC and what he did with the Raiders. Got to do that coming up in segment number 2. So Tommy Mellott's under contract, Cam Miller's under contract, Cody Lindenberg's under contract. Also, so the only guys left are Jack Besh, who I mentioned earlier, and then Darian Porter, the 3rd-round pick out of Iowa State, the cornerback. The Raiders also got 15 undrafted free agents officially under contract. So I know that there's a lot of reports out, this guy signed, this guy signed. These are the 15 that are actually official. Tank Booker, defensive tackle out of SMU. Dominic Boyd, the tackle out of Georgia Southern. Hudson Clark, safety out of Arkansas. Parker Clements, tackle out of Virginia Tech. Pat Conroy, the tight end from Old Dominion. Mello Dotson, cornerback out of Kansas. Who's not a cool cornerback if your name's not Mello, right? If your name is Mello or Greedy, guess what? The Raiders have a Mello and a Greedy. So Mello Dotson is under contract. Zachariah Franklin, the wide receiver out of Illinois. Gerard Hufford, the center out of Iowa State, another Iowa State guy. Always root for those guys because, well, they're coached up well. I say it all the time. John Humphrey, cornerback from USC. Matt Jones, the linebacker from Baylor. Ja Joyner, defensive end from Minnesota. That's one to pay attention to. That's a guy that can make some impact. Trevin Mai, the defensive tackle from Baylor. Carter Runyon, tight end from Towson. Greedy Vance, as I mentioned, the Raiders have a Mello and a Greedy. Greedy Vance, the cornerback from USC, and then Jalen Walker, linebacker out of Indiana. So all those guys are officially under contract with the Raiders as well. And, of course, they're going to continue to bring in multiple guys, take looks at guys as they have OTAs going on and little mini camps going on, and then eventually they'll have mandatory mini camp. But they're going to continue to tinker with the roster and see what fits and see what doesn't fit. Before we get to segment number 2 and talk a little DC4, a little Derek Carr as he officially announced his retirement on Saturday, I did want you to hear what Steve Weiss, also from the NFL Network, was talking about the other day on the show when he was talking about the Raiders' offense, and he started off talking about offensive coordinator Chip Kelly.
Well, it's going to be because Chip Kelly is a new offensive coordinator there, and we've seen him evolve his schemes and systems a lot from the NFL to college and everything. So how he's going to work Ashton Jeanty in more than any way is to find ways to get him the ball in the run and the passing game. And you've seen the things he can do. You're seeing the inside run here. He's going to break a tackle. He's got the speed. He's gone, right? In the NFL, he might not be able to run away from as many guys like this, but again, the strength and the contact balance is exactly what Pete Carroll had in a running back in Marshawn Lynch. Very similar with some of the things that they do. But let's not forget they added Raheem Mostert, a veteran with speed. They've got some guys. Pete Carroll always finds somebody in the 6th round who can do some things. The offensive line is pretty good. They really added to their wide receiver group as well. So offensively, they're going to be far more competitive with Geno Smith calling things. And then defensively, you're going to get players back like Christian Wilkins and Malcolm Kuntz, who missed a lot of time with injuries last year. That defensive front is going to be solid. They got tackling machines at linebacker. Jeremy Chin comes over to play safety. On paper, the Raiders are so much better, and they're going to play hard for Pete Carroll. But, they also played hard for Antonio Pierce, so it is an upgrade in talent. Big thing is, how's it going to work out in the AFC West? Because you got the Kansas City Chiefs there. You've got the Chargers there, and you have the Broncos there. 3 playoff teams, and the Broncos and the 2 other teams look like they've had very good off seasons, again, on paper. So right now, you look at the AFC West, top to bottom, this might be the most competitive division in football, although people will say the NFC North might be. But again, Adding Ashton Genty to the Raiders on top of all the other moves they made with young players and veterans, they should be far more competitive with Pete Carroll calling the shots.
Again, just like to bring some national attention to the show. Whenever there's national conversation, and even if it's bad, I mean, there's been a lot of positive, obviously, but even when it's bad, I'll bring it to the table and say, hey, this is what they're saying. This is their concern. Just so you know, just so we're all up to speed. There's so many times when people say the national media is not talking about the Raiders. Well, I'll tell you right now, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but the national media is talking about the Raiders and everything that they've done so far this offseason with John Spytek, the GM, head coach Pete Carroll, the decisions that they've made as far as the roster and the direction that they're going. And obviously Tom Brady plays a big role in that as well, being a part minority owner. But that was Steve Weiss from the NFL Network talking a little Raiders offense. Coming up in segment number 2, the guy who used to be behind center of the Raiders offense is Derek Carr, drafted back in 2014 in second round. He decided to retire. Found that out early on Saturday morning. We'll talk about DC4. We'll do it next here on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and actually start building your wealth. You can find out how much you spend on food delivery, right? So you can actually budget smarter. You can save more money. You don't have to have multiple apps. You can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. So everything is a lot easier with one simple app. That is Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word, LOCKEDON NFL, for half off your first year. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Probably the biggest news of the weekend, not only in the NFL, but obviously Raiders related. But since it happened on Saturday, decided we'd go ahead and roll it in segment number 2. And that's former Raider quarterback Derek Carr, longtime Raider quarterback Derek Carr, retires. I woke up on Saturday morning. I was about to make my way to the barbershop, as I do each and every Saturday, and I saw a tweet from Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network. Saints quarterback Derek Carr is retiring. Sources tell the insiders. Carr, 34, recently underwent multiple medical evaluations on his shoulder. Surgery was deemed the only route back to 100%, and that would mean up to 6 months recovery. Carr retires rather than staying on IR all year. There's a bunch of big financial gains for the Saints for him going out and retiring. There's also bonus money that he's received from the Saints that he doesn't have to pay back because he retires. But ultimately, injury is what drove Derek Carr away from the Saints and ultimately led him to retiring after being drafted in 2014 in the second round by the then Oakland Raiders. So he retires as the all-time leading passer in Raiders history. And the funny thing about this is when I saw that tweet, all I did is quote tweet and said, hell of a run for DC. That was it, right? I mean, because from my point of view, he had a hell of a run from 2014 to 2022 with the Silver and Black. He played in 142 games. He's had 35,222 yards, 217 touchdowns as opposed to 99 interceptions, and 33 game-winning drives. So you would say, hey, not bad. Actually, it's pretty good. Problem is, his overall record was 77-92 and 0-1 in the playoffs. So it's so wild to think. And, I mean, I guess I just needed a reality because we've been removed from the Derek Carr conversation for a while now. And here on the Locked On Raiders podcast, man, the Derek Carr conversation, when I first started back in, 2018 when John Gruden returned the second time, man, that conversation about DC was popping. It was like the hottest thing going. There was points where I was like, all right, man, we just got to stop talking about the dude because it was just, there was no agreement. Well, it's wild that all these years later, and now he's not even being a Raider quarterback anymore, it's still the same exact way. You mentioned Derek Carr, and I guarantee right now someone's listening to this and saying, oh, he sucks. Oh, he's terrible. And someone else is thinking, oh, man, he did great things for the Silver and Black. And I've been accused of not liking Derek Carr, and I've never, ever been that guy. I think Derek Carr was the ultimate stabilizer for the Raiders organization, right? And look, I'm not here to change your opinion on him. If you think he was fantastic, great. If you thought he was terrible, that's great too. I'm just telling you how I feel about the guy and what he did with the organization back in 2014. And I'll tell you, going into that draft, I thought I was like the Nostradamus of the NFL draft. I remember I got the first 2 picks correct for the Raiders. I had Khalil Mack in the first round and Derek Carr in the second round. That's exactly what wanted to happen, and that's exactly what happened. And before Derek Carr, and I don't even want to go through it because it just makes me you know how it goes, man. You go through the quarterback carousel between Rich Gannon and Derek Carr, and it was a long list of just names, right? And so what he did is he brought stability to the position. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Right? I mean, like I said, he's the all-time passing leader in Raiders history, but, he passed Kenny Stabler. And he passed Kenny Stabler, and it wasn't even close. Kenny Stabler is at 19,078 yards. He's second, but he's a winner. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. There's a reason why he's a Hall of Famer, right? So many will be like, yeah, he's not the all-time passing leader. But, I mean, statistically, he is. Obviously, he did it a lot longer. But it's so wild to think, man, how polarizing the guy is. I mean, just seeing on social media, and, it's only one little small sample size. I know social media is not the end-all, be-all. But, man, it's almost like everything was back to him being the Raiders quarterback again. I mean, it was so wild. Like, it was one way or the other. It's just one of those polarizing figures, right? And again, I think he brought stability to the organization. I think that the organization, let him down at times, and I think he let the organization down at times. I think there's faults on both ends. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's about winning. And when he went 77-92 and 0-1 in the playoffs, he didn't win enough, right? I think he gave everything that he had to the organization, but sometimes everything you have is not enough. Right? It's just that simple. But the stability that he brought, and you can say, well, what kind of stability did he bring when he wasn't a winner? Well, I'll tell you this. You knew what you had, and you knew that you had a quarterback, and, okay, this is what we got to do to build around him to try to make him successful. They didn't have it before he got there, and honestly, they haven't had it since he left. I mean, since he's left, Jarrett Stidham's taking snaps as starting quarterback. Aiden O'Connell's taking snaps as starting quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo's taking snaps as a starting quarterback. Brian Hoyer has taken snaps as starting quarterback. Desmond Ridder has taken snaps as starting quarterback. Gardner Minshew has taken snaps as starting quarterback. And now here we go, Geno Smith. And I think Geno Smith is going to be able to stabilize the position for a couple years, which is great. He'll be able to do his ultimate Derek Carr impersonation and be able to stabilize the position and help the Raiders win some games. I do fully believe that. But we also know that he's not the quarterback for the next 10 years. So, I mean, we could all say whatever we want about Derek Carr, about he was this guy, that guy, or he wasn't clutch enough, or he wasn't good enough, he didn't win enough, I don't think he was tough enough, whatever. You can say whatever you want. Those are not my words. I just know that that's some of the stuff that's going out there about him. But he was stabilizing, and he did stabilize the most important position for a team that had no stability at that position before he arrived there, and still questions about that stability after he's gone. And then there's always 2016. There's always the big what if about 2016. There's a lot of what if stories in sports. I will always go back to the what if Derek Carr doesn't break his ankle in 2016 on Christmas Eve against the Colts. I will always go back to that. That was a 12-4 season. The Raiders lost in the wild card round against Houston. I was at that game. I was also at the game that he broke his ankle. I was at 95.7 the game. I was on air with Zachariah that Friday night before, and he said, hey, man, this is a great season that the Raiders have had. They have something to build on now. They can go and say, all right, next year, now they take the next step. And I was like, no, why not just go win the whole thing now? And honestly, Raider Nation, I know that sounds silly. I don't think that there's too much. I don't think like I'm overshooting it or getting too ahead of myself by saying in 2016, Derek Carr doesn't break his ankle. There's a really good chance they win the Super Bowl. Every bounce that they needed to have go their way went their way. Whenever they needed a turnover, they got a turnover. Whenever they needed a heroic play from Khalil Mack, they got it. Whenever they needed a comeback from Derek Carr, they got like everything that had to go their way for them to win their games was going their way. And remember, they were beating the brakes off the Colts. There's questions of why he was even in the game in that Christmas Eve game, and then he broke his ankle, and then it was all over after that. I remember walking out of the parking lot or out of the Coliseum that day into the parking lot. I'm with Little Q. I'm with Mama Q, Little Q, and Littler Q. And Littler Q says, why is everybody so quiet? The Raiders just won. And Bigger Q says, because Derek Carr is out. The Raiders season's over. Like, he was so angry and so, like, he knew what time it was, right? And that was the reality of it, right? The season was over the minute that Derek Carr broke his ankle. And I think that the way he played football changed after he broke his ankle in 2016. He was a guy that had no problem running. He was a guy that would put his body on the line. And maybe he would have changed his style as he got older anyway, but he never had a problem. Remember, he going over the top and against the Saints and right there on the sideline. And ultimately, which is kind of wild, you think about it, his last play that he has with the Saints, how he injures himself, right, is going over, trying to go over the top, trying to extend a play for the Saints. So, I mean, it's one of those things. But 2016 will always be the ultimate, what if he doesn't break his ankle? What happens? How does everything go from there? How does his career go from there? But again, he wasn't perfect. He was never elite. No one was ever going to say he was elite. He let the organization down at times, and the organization let him down at times. There's faults on both ends when it comes to Derek Carr, but I'm just going to choose to give a tip of the cap. Tell him thank you for solidifying that position from 2014 to 2022. I didn't have any problem with Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels when they decided that they were going to sit him down and move on from him. My problem has always been they didn't have an answer when they moved on from him. Hey, you want to move on from him? Cool. There's nothing wrong with wanting to upgrade, but what is your solution? Like, I can't have a job and say, you know what, I want a better job, and then quit the current job I have without a job, right? If I want a better job, I better get that better job before I quit my current, because guess what? Having a job and having a income is better than not having a job and having no income, right? It kind of felt like that. We're going to move on from Derek Carr, but we don't really have an actual answer at the quarterback position afterwards. That was the mistake that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler made, obviously, amongst many mistakes that they made during their short time with the silver and black. So, again, just tip the cap to him. I think that he did a hell of a job. I think that at some point he'll come back and retire, sign a one-day contract, retire as a Raider. I'm sure one day at Allegiant Stadium he'll light the Al Davis Memorial torch, as he should. And again, I know this isn't going to go over well with everybody because everyone doesn't feel the same way, and that's fine. As I mentioned at the top, I'm not trying to change how you feel. I'm not trying to influence. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just tipping the cap from my point of view to Derek Carr, who I thought did a hell of a job for the time he was a starting quarterback with the silver and black. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts. What's on your mind? 707-654-4693. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts. Draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Start things off with a text from Kai in San Jose. It says, hey, Q, after listening to your comparison between this year and last year, I wanted to share my thoughts. Compared to last year, there's so much more certainty now. Last year, we had uncertainties with Zamir White, the offensive line, and the defensive back and D-line. I feel like the following team last season, we had a lot of ifs around the Raiders. This year, we're in a much better place with Ashton Jeanty as running back 1, Jacoby and Besh at wide receiver, Brock Bowers, and the healthy defensive line. There's a lot to be excited about. Plus, we have competition all over the team, from the offensive line to the defensive line, and we have a proven head coach, a GM with amazing potential. I'm really hopeful for this year. Shout out to you and Ari. Go Raiders. That's Kai in San Jose. Yeah, that was the point of the comparisons that I was breaking down. There's so many answers to the questions already here in front of us, and it's only May, as opposed to last year we were wondering, and as much of an Antonio Pierce supporter as I was, as you mentioned, it was a head coach with no experience. So he didn't know how he was going to be able to adjust, didn't know how he was going to make in-game decisions, didn't know how he was going to grow over the course of the season. And really, he didn't grow over the course of the season, right? There was, especially when you have to change your offensive coordinator, you have to change your offensive line coach. You're making all these different moves and changes your rookie year as a head coach. It's just not easy. And so there's a lot more, like I said, the answers are already, the answers are already answered, and they're the correct answers, as opposed to a lot of questions about, well, I'm not too sure who's going to check that box. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, a call from Proto in Vancouver, calling to respond to the call from Howard in Oakland when he cautioned for Raider Nation to slow your roll. Here's Proto in Vancouver.
Hey, yo, Q, it's your boy. This is your boy Proto, YCD from up here in Canada, Vancouver, as you know. So I'm calling because I just heard last Friday's episode, and Howard from Oakland called in and asked Raider fans to slow their roll. So I'm just respectfully coming in to say, no, sir, I will not slow my roll. I will keep my roll very steadfast. I am stoked about this upcoming season. Of course, I don't mean disrespect to Howard from Oakland. No disrespect there. But I'm telling you, I am very excited for this upcoming season. This is different. It's not just the players or it's just everything feels different, right? It doesn't feel like we're just throwing things at the wall and trying to see what sticks. It feels like there was a plan. Trading down twice in the draft in the second round, that's a plan. That's not just something that just comes out of nowhere. That's a plan. And the players that drafted, that also was a plan. There is a plan here. The question is, are we going to go to the Super Bowl? Well, probably not. Are we going to go to the playoffs? I hope we do. But even if we don't, there is clearly a difference here, and we can all see it. The national media can see it too. And the Raiders are going to be a very fun team to watch. And at the end of the day, that's all I want. Give us a really fun team to watch, and we will watch it. So, once again, I will not slow my roll. I am very excited for the upcoming season. Thanks for calling, and as always, go Raiders.
Proto, thanks for the call. And yeah, man, I think when Howard was saying that, it was a don't set yourself up for failure point of view, right? And I agree with you, Proto. A plan is in place and it feels good. But I've even been saying multiple times that I'm trying to temper my expectations. I'll tell you a quick story. I talk to my dad every Saturday after I leave the barbershop, and I always give him a call on the way back. And, he's online. He's reading everything. Obviously, he's hearing the show. He's hearing what the Raiders got cooking. And he said, man, it feels like it's almost like a setup for a letdown, right? Because everything is so positive. So I think that from my dad's point of view and from Howard and Oakland's point of view, it's kind of similar. Like, proceed with caution because it feels good, it looks good, it sounds good, and you don't want to get too high on it. Like, that's why when people call and ask, well, what do you think the win total is going to be? And I say, I think 8 is reasonable. I still believe 8's reasonable. Now, if they go and get 10 or 11, and we've seen this happen in the league, that's fantastic. That lets us know that, hey, man, not only was that plan in place, but it was a great plan, and they executed it correctly. But there's so much that has to go right in the NFL to go and win games. So I'm trying to proceed with caution. So I understand where Howard's coming from, but I also understand where you're coming from because, man, it feels like everything is just the way it's supposed to be, right? And that this team is going to come out clicking on all cylinders. Now, the one big thing, in even referencing back to what Steve Weiss had to say about the Raiders offense in segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, they still play in the AFC West, right? Kansas City's still going to be a dog, right? You're still going to see the Chargers, take another step under Jim Harbaugh. See what Sean Payton has there in Denver. Still one of the toughest, if not the toughest division in football. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. 3 out of the 4 teams made the playoffs last year. So, again, you proceed with caution, but I absolutely 100% know where you're coming from. So thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Got a text, a quick one from Gray Dad from Woodland, Cali. He says, hey, Q, Gray Dad from Woodland, Cali, first-time texter. I wanted to know the availability of Wilkins. I've heard the best ability is availability. Love what you do. Go Raiders. That's Gray Dad from Woodland, Cali. And, yeah, that's the thing. That's the big mystery, right? I mean, there's reports out there from Tony Pauline that the Raiders are concerned about his foot and he's not coming back as quickly as they would like him to. And there's concerns. And then there's pictures of him at voluntary workouts, at OTAs, and looking the part. I think the bottom line is he's a big man with a foot injury. So I think the reality is that there's always going to be concern, right? And he does need to be 100%. He's one of the guys that needs to show up and show out this year. He needs to show why Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce wanted him in the mix so badly last year, right? He needs to be that guy that he arrived and said he's going to set the tone. He's going to be, trying to match Max's energy and try to be the best running buddy with Max. And early on in the season, you saw it. He needs to take it up a notch. There's no doubt about it. So his health and how he's doing, and we'll learn a lot more about his health in training camp when we see how he's actually out there practicing. Is he practicing every day? Is he completing practices? Is he on a schedule? And he might be. Just because, again, he's a big man with a foot injury, and they might want to be cautious to make sure that he makes it to the regular season as healthy as possible, as opposed to, blowing a tire out during training camp. So that's definitely going to be a storyline to pay attention to. Thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider Tom in the Mesa. He's calling to share his excitement about some of the young players and the Raiders offense in general. Here's Raider Tom.
Hey, Q. It's Raider Tom here, checking in from the Mesa. Anyway, man, I'm in love with this first-round pick, Ashton Jeanty. My God, dude, I can't wait to see this guy run. He is going to be amazing. I think JPJ locking down the center of that offensive line, man, and just kicking some ass. I can't wait to see Mayer and Brock Bowers blocking, as well as Jacoby Myers blocking for Jeanty and just opening up gigantic holes. I'm super excited, man. This is going to be a next level for our offense. Man, Geno Smith, he's so accurate, and I do believe that man is going to be able to get the ball into Tucker's hands and then our new rookie's hands, man, our 4-3 new rookie. I just can't wait. Man, these people that we brought in the draft, I feel super confident about them. So much hope for the future. It's just an exciting time. We're in that hope time right now. We're in that time where nobody's lost any games, and, we can be hopeful and we can hope for the future. And I see just such a beautiful thing going on with our coach, Pete Carroll, and Tom Brady, and Mark Davis learning as an owner and progressing as an owner. Man, this is just a great time to be a Raider. So much hope. You got Q, man, I absolutely appreciate what you do, man. You are my morning time listen at work. You take up 45 minutes of my day almost every day, and I do appreciate what you do, my friend, and thank you again. All right, this is Raider Tom from the Mesa. Raiders!
Tom, thanks so much for the call. And you're right, man. No games are being lost right now. That's the great thing, right? Hopefully the Raiders could translate all this, positive momentum from May to when it matters, September, October, November, December, the first week in January, right? There's a lot to like about what we're hearing, what we're seeing, the players that are all excited, right? Obviously, health is going to play a major role. Right. That's one of the biggest things. You got to get there. You got to get to the season, and then you got to get through the season as healthy as possible. And we know how tough that is. But seeing the players that are being brought in sounding like they're all in, that's always great, right? I mean, it's a good feeling again to make it look like this Raiders team and organization is functioning at a high level and it's not a dysfunctional bunch. So it's hard not to get excited. I'm trying not to be that guy, but I understand where you're coming from. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Got a text from YO Raider from the 307. Hey, Q, it's YO Raider from the 307. Just saw Genty's contract fully guaranteed. I know that's getting to be the standard for these guys, but for me, it just sent my expectations of him sky high. He's making near Saquon money, and so that's what we should expect. I know it's probably unrealistic, but he and his agent put that on themselves. Appreciate you, Q and Ari, and I'm grateful for what you do. Have a blessed day. Raiders. There you go. Really good text from YO Raider from the 307. And I don't think that him and his agent set him up for that. His expectations were sky high when they drafted him number 6 overall. That's the bottom line. When you're drafted that high, as Tyree Wilson, the expectations are high. As Cleve Farrell, the expectations are high, right? If you're a guy that's selected in the top 10, you're expected to be an impact player, right? And so I think that was where the expectations came from. The money doesn't matter. Those contracts are fully guaranteed at the top of the draft like that. That's just what they are. So, yeah, he's got the contract, but him going and rushing for 2,600 yards in college and being a runner-up in the Heisman Trophy award, that was the expectations, right? What he's doing, the heavy lifting that everyone expects him to do. We had Max Toscano. I had that interview on the show on Friday, and he was talking about how Chip Kelly's offense is going to thrive because of Ashton Genty. That's where all the pressure's at. It ain't about the money. It's about everything else, right? When you're drafted, where you're drafted, and when you have the kind of college career that he had, and then you all of a sudden say, hey, this is going to be our Marshawn Lynch. This is going to be the guy where the offense is going to run through him. Like, that's the expectations are sky high anyway, right? So, I mean, regardless if it's Saquon Barkley, I mean, hell, think about Saquon Barkley and all the pressure he had when he got drafted as high as he did, right? Think about Zeke Elliott when the Cowboys drafted him so high. The expectations are always going to be there. If you're a top 10 pick, boom, you better click. And if you don't, all of a sudden you're going to get questioned, right? And again, we all know the reality of that. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Just got time for a couple more. This one's from Raider Roy in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. He's calling to talk about the Tom Brady and the value that he is bringing to this Raiders organization. Here's Raider Roy.
Hi, Q. It's Raider Roy from the 514, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I just wanted to do a shout out for you. You're doing a great job, man. I listen to you each and every day. Truly a blessing to have someone who knows what they're talking about and is not really biased. Even though you're a Raiders fan, it's phenomenal. Love you, man, very much. I just wanted to know your opinion on something regarding Tom Brady. I don't know if people really truly understand the value that this man brings. I know as Raider fans, we've had a bad history with Tom with the Tuck rule, but can you imagine having Tom Brady as a consultant for your quarterback, no matter who it is, Cam Miller, Geno Smith, Aiden O'Connell, any future draft pick that is picked, having Tom Brady available to you and his mentals, that's the most important thing I think is kind of missed sometimes, is that as a quarterback, the mentals of the game is truly important. And having someone like Tom Brady, who is the best quarterback in NFL history, being a tutor for you, the sky is the limit. And I think what it does is it allows the Raiders to find a diamond in the rough eventually. Maybe not with Cam Miller, maybe not with Geno Smith, maybe not with Aiden O'Connell, but having someone like Tom Brady to tutor you and to answer questions you may have and to provide a strategy for the mentals of the game. We all know Tom Brady wasn't a very physical athlete, but his mentals were top of the line. And I think having Tom Brady and his mentals is a phenomenal advantage. And I want to stress to Raider Nation, I know we've had a down couple decades here, but the future is very bright. I can't stress it enough how important it is to have Tom Brady. I know he doesn't, spend too much time with the team because he hasn't had a career and all, but I truly believe that the next diamond in the rough will come. Whether it's Cam Miller or Geno Smith, who knows? But bar none, it will come. And having Tom Brady there is just a phenomenal advantage. And I'm just very proud of the Raiders and what this new regime has done. And the future is bright, Raider Nation. So thanks a lot, Q. I'll touch base again with you in the future.
Raider Roy, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Thanks for the compliments on the show as well. TB12 brings a ton to this Raiders organization. Credibility, commitment to excellence is not just a T-shirt anymore, right? It's not just a slogan that you see on the wall at Allegiant Stadium, but it stands for something. Because Tom Brady stands for something. Like, Tom Brady is the ultimate winner. He's not a guy that's going to put his name and attach himself to a loser. I mean, and we could let's just put it like that. I mean, it doesn't get any more blunt than that. He's not going to stand for losing, right? There's certain people that stand for excellence. There's certain people that winning is all that matters to them, right? I say it all the time. People that hate losing more than they love winning, right? That's who Tom Brady is. So he's going to find a way to make sure that this Raiders organization is a winner. And that's from the outside world, the national media and people that I talk to on the daily. That's what they're talking about how the whole new structure there, from the ownership to the coaches that are in place to the players that they're being brought in. All that has changed, and that's all the Tom Brady effect. So, yeah, I mean, he's got so much credibility and that he brings to the organization. And, oh, by the way, as you mentioned with the quarterback being, the greatest quarterback to do it, he's a hell of a resource for any quarterback in the Raiders organization to go and pick his brain, get a little bit of knowledge from him if they so choose to do so. And if they don't, shame on them. If you have a resource like that and you choose not to use it, that's on you, right? So, yeah, Tom Brady brings a ton to the organization. There is no doubt about it, and I'm expecting he's probably going to even be a little bit more hands-on as the future unfolds and his minority ownership as that continues to evolve. I'm sure he's going to be more hands-on than he even has been so far early in the process. Up next, got a text from Houston in Porterville. It says, "What's poppin', Q? It's Houston from Porterville. I've been watching your podcast for a bit, and I've often found my eyes drifting towards your background photos. Could you please take a moment to explain the correlation between the athletes and the music photos? Also, please move to your left for a quick moment so we can see the full view of the picture behind you. It's all about the details, plus the tape don't lie. Go Raiders." That's Houston in Porterville. Thanks for the text. Obviously, checking us out on the YouTube page. All right, so here we go. I'm going to try to move a little bit. I might get – okay, hold on. So – this is India Ari. This is a platinum plaque from her. I used to do, matter of fact, you're in Porterville. I used to be a music director at Q97 there. It's a Fresno radio station, but it actually was in Visalia. So you'll know where that's at. Anyway, so I got this from my boss, Tommy Del Rio. He gave it to me. So boom. And over here, hold on, let me stand up. I don't know how this looks, but it's cool. That's Erykah Badu. Same thing. Akon, he actually signed this one for me. And it says, "Presented to your boy Q to commemorate combined worldwide sales of more than 3 million copies of the SRC Universal Records compact disc Trouble." So boom, there's that right there. And then I just added these over here. And again, I don't even know if you can see them, but here's Michael Jeffrey Jordan and Kobe Bean Bryant, two of the best to ever do it on the hoop court. Basketball was my first love. So those two dudes, I was so fortunate to grow up in the MJ era and the Kobe Bryant era. Don't get me on the LeBron argument. I don't even want to go there, but as you can tell, MJ and Kobe are on my wall. So that's all that's said. I actually have another platinum plaque, but you can't see it. It's across the room. It's from High Five from when I was in Waco, and they presented me a platinum plaque as well for their song, one of their songs that they were putting out. Anyway, groups used to do that. Like, artists used to give platinum plaques all the time. They used to come to the radio stations and show love to the music directors who scheduled their music, and it's a whole big complicated thing, but it's really cool. So I'm glad that you enjoy it. And there was no reason, there's no like rhyme or reason to it. It's just some work that I actually like. I actually have Kimani, my older son. He obviously he passed away, but his football pictures over here. And then Little Q, his basketball poster from Portland State's over there. So yeah, I got a lot cooking here in Studio Q. But thanks for noticing. I do appreciate you. Hopefully that was a fun little tour there, Studio Q. We'll close out with one more text from Law Dog. Hey Q, it's Law Dog. Just wanted to say one thing. I don't think a lot of people understand is all those teams were putting 8 men in the box against Ashton because they knew Boise didn't have a passing game in the NFL. No one's going to get away with that. He had mid receivers, midline, and a mid quarterback. He literally had to run through the whole entire team, and they still couldn't stop him. So Law Dog talking about Boise State and the fact that they didn't have a passing game, and the whole offense went through Ashton Genty, so they loaded up the box, and they still couldn't stop him. Now the counter argument is that he played in the Mountain West, so it's not the same competition, even though he did go up against Oregon, who was a playoff team, and did really well against them. Also went up against Ohio State. Didn't do as good against them. They also went on to win the national championship, so there's that. But, yeah, Ashton Genty is an absolute dude, and he should be able to open everything up for this Raiders offense. And yeah, just excited to see what he could bring to the table and obviously how Chip Kelly uses him and all the pieces around him, as you mentioned. And, of course, Geno Smith is going to benefit as well. So that's going to do it for today's show. Hopefully everyone had a fantastic weekend. Hopefully all the mothers out there, Raider Nation, had a fantastic Mother's Day as well. And we're going to keep this bad boy rolling. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to try to get that Good Morning Football NFL Network, that feature that they did on Touchdown Tommy, the 6th-round pick out of Montana State. I'll try to get that onto the show as well. We'll have more news and notes. Of course, we'll get back to your calls and text at 707-654-4693. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.